Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first edition of IAMAI's Digital Transformation Summit. The theme of this summit is Decoding the Emerging Tech Potential. Today, the digital transformation is critical to any organization's business model, and organizations are increasingly realizing its immense potential. Irrespective of any industry segment, digital transformation holds the key to success for any business. In these 2 days of summit, we have with us many visionaries to share their experiences and insights with all of you. So stay tuned till the end. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's get into thick of things right away. Let's start off with a very interesting fireside chat on vision of a $5 trillion economy, role of tech and transformation with Mr. Samir Garde, President, India and SAARC, Cisco, and Mr. Samir Amte, Managing Director, Accenture Strategy. Welcome to both of you. Dear audience, please keep posting your questions in the chat box. Mr. Garde may select a few in the end and answer to you. Over to you, Mr. Amte.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much, IAMI, for this wonderful opportunity and a very interesting topic. India, as we know, is moving towards the $5 trillion economy. Of course, I mean, COVID has come as a bit of a barrier. Our GDP tanked last year for a few basis points, but the news that was there in the market was that this year was supposed to be a turnaround year. Organizations have transformed in this pandemic. There are multiple small and medium-sized entrepreneurs have gone into a different operating model. And who best to basically talk about it than my colleague and my friend Samir, who is also the CEO of basically Cisco in India and SAARC. Samir, welcome on this fireside chat. Glad to have you on this particular session.
Hey, thank you for having me, Samir, and IAMI. I really appreciate this. It's an honor to be here.
Great. So, Samir, I mean, before we develop to the discussions, I think it is important to address the India state today. Now, I know that the second wave, as such, has come as a bit of a barrier as we were India was moving forward. So, I mean, from your perspective, how has it been for you and your team at Cisco? How have you kept, the customers and basically the overall organizations more focused and more driven and positive in this particular environment? What are your thoughts around it?
Yeah. Hey, by the way, firstly, thank you for having me here, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to a very august audience here. But let me start by saying I think the difference between the first wave and the second wave is pretty stark, right? Of course, in terms of numbers is one aspect of it. But in the first wave, I think our focus was a lot more in getting our employees to start getting safe and work from home, which is not very difficult from a Cisco point of view because 80% of our workforce, even before the pandemic, was enabled to work from home. But I think the big difference in the second wave has been the number of infections we have seen of our own employee base, right? I mean, we have upwards of 12, 13,000 people in India. My latest estimate in this wave is that anywhere between 10 to 17%, depending on the team, of my team is infected. And probably 2x that in terms of family members. Whereas if you looked at the first wave, I think the first wave was more about helping the community after you had made sure that the employees were safe and the customers had transitioned. This time, we are spending 90% of our time on trying to make sure that we can help our employees and their dependents from a healthcare perspective. What can we do to get them beds? What can we do to get them oxygen concentrators? What can we do to make sure that we focus their attention on caregiving for their family members? That, in my opinion, is a big difference because, in the first wave, we had probably less than 1% of our employees infected. This time, it's 15x of that. So that's the one big difference that I'm seeing, number one. Number two, I think we are also looking at making sure that the communities that we serve and the customers and the partners that we serve also are seeing infections to the same impact. right? Around 10 to 15%. So there is a requirement of being a lot more sensitive in the way you deal with your partners, in the way you deal with your customers in a time like this. Business becomes a little secondary. The health and welfare of your employees, customers, and partners is paramount. And I think the third thing that I'm seeing is on the community side, we are doing what a lot of large companies are doing, which is to help build up the healthcare infrastructure of this country, so that next time, hopefully, if we don't face this, but next time if this country faces some crisis like this, we are much better prepared. So I think those are the three things that we are seeing in this wave in terms of how things have changed versus the first wave.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, even at our side, Samir, the second wave, the impact or in our ecosystem, in the network or our own personal network that we have seen is quite overwhelming as what we had, seen in the last wave as such. And I'm very glad, for the points that you made, Samir, that from the perspective of that you're working with the community. You're working with the various stakeholders in this particular pandemic to ensure that if at all you face or India has to face another third wave or fourth wave, we will be much more better prepared as compared to what we were in the second wave. No, the great. I mean, thank you so much for that basically support to the community as such. Moving on, Samir. I mean, now you would have seen in the now let me basically because the pandemic first wave, second wave. I mean, the fact of the matter is the businesses have been disrupted. There are many organizations who have to turn to work from home in a very quick time as compared to many others. And I know that and you rightly mentioned the Cisco was in any case equipped to handle this particular situation much better than other organizations. So what are the bright spots that you have seen as you have traversed this journey of in India from last 1.5 years in this particular pandemic? I mean, how you have seen organizations really adapt to these new changes? Any specific industries that you can really point out who have done better, and other industries that you think can do a lot more for us to basically handle this situation that has come upon all of us in a much more better fashion?
Yeah. No, I think for me, the biggest learning is that this crisis is a reminder of how resilient and adaptive the human species is, right? First thing is that as a species, we are probably as adaptive as any other species in the world or in the ecosystem. And I think most companies, most institutions, most government departments, state governments, all of them adapted to leverage technology to switch to this new way of working, right? I mean, who would have thought we will have the Delhi High Court, the Supreme Court do video calls for criminals and looking at cases through a hybrid technology-enabled environment. Right. I think the other piece which I get very enthused about is that we are a very young country, okay? And despite what people might say, and cynical people probably say this a lot more, that I think India's Digital India mission is a boon for being able to manage some crisis like this, right? If you think about it, with a young country which is very conversant with technology, it was probably easier for a country like ours to adapt to this new way of working than most other countries which may be aging, right? And like I said, I think the challenge during the first wave was around a mindset. In some cases, there was decades long of traditional practices and business models which were redundant, which were kind of made redundant overnight because of this new environment. So I think first thing was, are you in a position to accept this next normal? Some industries probably took to it like fish to water, like the IT/ITES industry. Quickly made sure that everything moved to a hybrid work model. Some industries which had not thought of this. I mean, I must say the BFSI industry, which is a very tech-heavy industry, hadn't done enough from an employee hybrid work model perspective, because a lot of the applications, a lot of what requires to be done on a BAU basis in that industry required people to be in office, right? I think they adapted very well. I think the auto industry adapted really well. I think government adapted really well, in my opinion. And thanks to social media apps like WhatsApp, etc., people adapted to business based on video calls in the small business category also. So, and we saw, for example, around 100,000 new WebEx customers in the space of 3 months when we launched WebEx.com in India. 100,000. We had probably billion minutes of WebEx being used versus little less than 200,000 or 200 million minutes prior to the pandemic. So I think people adapt very quickly. The human species is extremely resilient and adaptive. And I think the hybrid work model is here to stay. People have finally agreed. वो बीच में हुआ था कि between November and March, people said, चलो office चलते हैं वापस सब. A lot of people started moving back to office. I think this dong on the head with the second wave has probably helped people understand that it's best to continue with the hybrid work model.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, well said, Sameer. I mean, to be very honest, it has. I belong to a services industry and the consulting industry, and the way it has changed our lives is, the last time I got on the plane was March 8th, 2020, and providing services and consulting. Over basically, over the phone, over the conference calls, over the video calls, was completely unheard of. And I think, our industry has definitely, gotten, it changed for good, I would say, because now, while, yes, the pandemic is there, but at the same time, I mean, it has provided many people basically think about their own happiness, own work-life balance. And you're absolutely right. I mean, the folks actually let their guard down after the first wave so-called went away. November, December, everyone's ventured out, and it's a great reminder for all of us that this is serious business. Hybrid model is here to stay, and one has to basically adapt to the new ways of really working. Now you mentioned about basically an accelerated use of WebEx meetings. Any other trend some spotted that you feel is going to be here to stay? I mean, hybrid model is another one. Accelerated trend is another one. I mean, and how would you basically do a lot of operational activities like, all the sales, or for that matter, the supply chain perspective? Any trend that you have really spotted as you and your team has really dealt with, multiple customers in various different kind of industries or so?
Yeah, no, so I think 2 or 3 big trends. Not that I am telling you something earth-shattering here. Most people have probably seen this. The adoption of cloud is probably the biggest trend we've seen. Massive adoption of the cloud by every business, every consumer, every citizen, right? Including the government. I think SBI coming up with a cloud strategy right in the middle of the wave of COVID second wave is a testament to the fact that cloud adoption is pervasive. So I think that's probably the first thing. The second thing that has done is the adoption of as a service as a model, right? As a business model. And personally, I feel like everything I do or buy or procure today can be as a service, even from a small business, right? I mean, I get 2 coconuts a day from some vendor who comes and drops it at my house, right? And he's also told me, Sameer, sir, आप मतलब मेरे को standard price दे दो महीने का, or whether you take it or not, use it or not, I will charge you this, right? Yoga instructors are doing that, right? They're saying, I will give you a price for 12 classes, whether you take 8 classes or 12 classes, and still charge you for 12 classes. I think these are things which we never thought of, right? So as a service, cloud adoption, I think those are two massive trends that we are seeing. The third thing, which I personally believe we've still not done enough of, and I think personally will become and should become pervasive, is how we work, right? We are feeling good about the fact that some people have houses which are amenable to having a study and एक कमरे में जाकर के तुम काम कर सकते हो. And some people are saying that we will do some form of social distancing in offices. I think these are all incremental hybrid work models. In my opinion, and I dream of these things. I personally feel offices should become like fields, large acres of fields, open fields. Why do we even need concrete? Just need stools, probably a garden table, and have meetings there, right? And I think those are kind of models which should emerge. If they are not going to emerge out of this, then we will not have an opportunity to disrupt. I personally feel the real estate sector, especially the commercial side, will have to do something which is extremely innovative and different to get confidence and trust of employees, right? And lastly, I personally believe that competition will become fluid across industry. Right? That is probably the big thing. Nobody is a competitor. Nobody is a partner all the time. They used to say this in politics earlier, but I think this has become more prevalent in, Sharad Pawar used to say, in politics, you never have an enemy or a friend forever. And I think in business, you will see the same thing. Nobody is a friend or an enemy forever. You can partner with anybody, you can compete with anybody. Because this is what digital business models allow you to do. It's a bad analogy, but I couldn't help it.
No, it's as a matter of fact, it's a amazing analogy actually, because I've seen even we have seen organizations who are in a partnership with one particular marketplace, but yet they basically are going and developing their own basically marketplace or .com. And I guess it is the question is how successful all these organizations are going to be. And the fact of the matter is, Samir, that unless and until organizations really disrupt themselves or their line of thinking or their ways of doing things, there is no getting away. They will be if they don't disrupt themselves, they will get disrupted. So completely in line with the analogy that you really mentioned, and we got to really adopt. And I'm very very happy, and I wish that the vision that you basically mentioned about large open fields and a table and a stool for us to do the meetings, I wish it really comes true. I think I strive for it, and I'm sure you're in Bangalore, I'm in Mumbai.
Tell you one thing, Samir. I was speaking to a very large IT service provider, and I said, listen, there is technology available today, which can disrupt what is called the ODC model. The ODC model is a firewall model with people not getting access unless you are supposed to be inside that ODC. And I'm saying we have technology available, not just from Cisco, but from a lot of players, to allow a guy to sit on top of a tree in the campus and do his work for the ODC in a secure way. So I think those things are available today through segmentation and digital solutions. So I think real estate needs to take cognizance of that and build things around it. Sorry.
No, absolutely. So, Samir, I mean, one more. This has been close to my heart as we have been going through this and dealing with this COVID and the new ways of doing things. What has been your experience with size or the small size organizations? Big size organization, they have access to all the information, all the assets, all the intelligence that is there in the world. but small size, mid-size organization, what has been your experience, and what would you think they should really be doing to really overcome and not be disrupted, but adapt to the new changes?
Yeah. The advantage of working for 30 years is that you've seen a lot of trends happening over the last 30 years, right? So you have that advantage of being one of those granddaddies who's worked for a long time. So if you look at, let's say, the 1990s to 2000, it was all about liberalization, right? Everybody, the entire industry and the entire economy grew. In the 2000 to 2010, it was all about the IT sector, right? So if you know that whole 10-year period where the Infosys, Wipros, and the others of the world kind of boomed, right? I think if you looked at the 2010 to 2020, my sense is it was the startup era, right? You saw tremendous startup ecosystem acceleration. In my opinion, 2020 to 2030 is going to be about SMBs. It's going to be about small and medium businesses. We have anywhere between 60 to 70 million micro, small SMBs or SMBs in India. And I personally feel it's their era. This decade is theirs. And the reason why I say that is because I think digital allows them to have a catchment area which goes beyond the borders of the country, beyond the borders of the city they operate in, beyond the borders of the market that they operate in, right? And I think at the very basic level, I think there are three things you need to take care of to as an SMB to navigate this new world, right? And I keep it very simple, like three diktats that I give when I talk to organizations which are, let's say, doing 15 crores, 20 crores, 30 crores kind of turnover a year, right? Or even lesser. One, find money to invest in new areas, right? For that, you have to divest from areas which are not important for you right now, right? And I think this is really important because cash flows are not going to be great for at least the next 5-6 months. So figure out what are those areas that you will divest from so that you can invest in digital. If you don't invest in digital, you will die. Believe me, it's a matter of survival. So I think the second big piece is how do you ensure your business model becomes digital, becomes low touch, becomes contactless, becomes a new go-to market for you. And I've seen a lot of these guys do that, right? You've seen, I talked about the coconut guy, I talked about the pineapple guy, right? These guys have rediscovered ways of doing business on WhatsApp, right? WhatsApp groups is a new business model. These guys did not have that access, right? What it does is it allows you to go in depth, right? The same pineapple guy can come and give me mangoes. Same mango guy can come and give me watermelon, and so on and so forth, which he probably was not able to do earlier. And the third thing, in my opinion, is leveraging partnerships, right? One thing is very clear after this: कि अकेले तुम कुछ नहीं कर सकते. As a single entity, business entity, you cannot do anything. You will need to partner. So think about a small business which never had to bother about deliveries for 5 kilometer radius, right? He used to do a delivery of kirana store था, वो बाजू के घरों में जाकर के deliver करता था, बंदा चल के आता था. Now he has to have a delivery mechanism. He needs to partner with someone who has a logistics arm, so to speak. So partnerships are going to become really critical, right? And be open to that in terms of figuring out how you can make those partnerships work for you, both on the digital side and on the offline mode, right? So divest to invest, go digital in a very hurried manner, and leverage partnerships. Those are the three things that I talk to when I talk to small businesses. And वो बोलते हैं सर आप बड़ी-बड़ी बातें कर रहे हो, ये हमें जरा धरती पे आकर के बताओ कैसे करते हैं. So I think it is important that we sit down with these guys sometimes and make them understand what are the things that, like for example, my driver, my wife actually put him onto one of these delivery startups, right? Because the guy was saying, sir, मेरे को कुछ काम वाम तो है नहीं, पर सैलरी देते रहो मुझे. तो हमने बोला हम तेरे को आधी सैलरी देंगे, but बाकी तू डंजो का काम कर. Correct? So I think these are things that these guys have to understand in a practical manner. And now we've divested 10,000 rupees of his salary, right? Now the bugger has to invest that in something so that he makes another 10, 15,000. So now he's doing that. He probably makes more money today than he was as a driver for me. So I think these are small businesses eventually, right? This guy might become a small business very, very soon.
No. I mean, very practical advices. I mean, divest to invest, partnership, go digital. I think relevant themes not only for the small and the mid-term organization, but also as for the larger organizations. I think we have 5 minutes, Samir, and there are questions that are coming up. Let's see. I think what are the questions that we can take? Question number 2. I think this is the question coming in from the audience. What do you think will be the repercussion or positive outcomes for the technology and digital industry of this pandemic over the next 5 years? You go first, Amir. I will also have my views around it.
Sure. No, absolutely. Hey, listen, I have worked in India, US, and Europe. Okay, so I worked in these 3 geographies. The one thing India will always do to you is we'll give you 3 to 4 years of massive growth. Okay, then एक साल बहुत जोर का झटका लगेगा. कुछ ना कुछ government will do or something will happen around the world which will impact India in a big way. GST हो गया, demonetization हो गया. उससे पहले we did a small war with Pakistan. So all of these things will disrupt every 3-4 years. In my opinion, we are sitting on the cusp. एक बार ये wave खत्म हो जाएगा and हो जाएगा because Bombay Pune the wave has come down. Once this wave gets over, my personal belief is we are staring at a massive growth wave, massive growth wave for the next 3 to 4 years. So it's not just about 2021 whether that growth will come. So companies or global companies which have the staying power will bet big on India, in my opinion, and should bet big on India. Indian companies should bet big on India because अगले 3-4 साल will be massive. I'll be surprised if we don't grow the economy at 8 to 10%. Of course, there'll be base effect in the first year, but उसके बाद I see a sustained growth for 10 to 12, for 3 to 4 years of around 8 to 12%. अब उसको capitalize करने का is what we need to figure out. क्योंकि 4 साल के बाद फिर से कुछ होएगा. इंडिया में जरूर कुछ ना कुछ होएगा. Something or the other always happens. So you got to be prepared to take advantage of that small window of 3 to 4 years. उसमें तुम क्या कर सकते हो? I mean, I remember in the 2017 to 2019 period, I mean, our business boomed, just boomed. Absolutely. And we took advantage of that. We invested and we made a massive growth number. Like for a business like Cisco, we grew at 20%, right? CAGR of around 15%, which is unheard of, right? But हमें पता है कि अभी कोविड की वजह से फिर धंधा नीचे चला जाएगा. But I think there is a 3-4 year window. Okay, so we got to invest, we got to strategize, we got to figure out 3-4 areas that we need to go help one another out for the next 3-4 years. That's how I see it.
No, absolutely. And I think, something I completely agree with you because, while, we also basically are in the services industry and we are seeing it up close with our customers and our clients. And the amount of focus that digital has really generated, and it was not there before pandemic. It was there, but I guess the pandemic has just accelerated it around about 3 times or 4 times, and in fact we were way behind the Europe and the markets from the digital transformation to the digital perspective. But in the next 2 years, we'll be very close to catching up with them. So for whoever is basically the audience, great questions. What we are believing is, and what we are seeing is, the digital is here to stay. That is the future, and one got to really go towards it. Shrishti, do we have time for one more question, or we are at the top of an hour?
Yes, we can have for 1-2 more minutes. Sure.
Okay. All right, Samir. So here is another one which I basically picked one. I mean, this is the question number 3. Now, how do you see B2C sales getting impacted because of the virtualization, especially the rural sales? So Samir, I mean, what has been your take from how the organizations are really actually gone and made all the things available from the rural perspective?
No, so I think there is, I mean, like I said earlier, right? Maybe you were talking about it before the session started. The one thing which has survived this pandemic is agriculture, right? Agriculture has survived, which is good news for our rural population to a large extent, right? The other thing, unfortunately, that has happened is that maybe migration from rural to urban will slow down a bit. So we will have to figure out a way in which the rural population outside of agriculture, how do we build jobs there? I think that is probably going to be a 2 to 3 year phenomenon before trust builds again for migration to start again, right? The third thing that I'm seeing is what is close to rural or semi-urban, like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities. A lot of people have moved out. A lot of knowledge workers who are relatively well off have moved to smaller towns from Bangalore, Delhi, Bombay, and gone back to Varanasi, Sonipat, Jamnagar, wherever they came from, right? So those smaller economies are going to boom because udhar paisa ja raha hai. These people are going to spend in those small locations. And I don't see why they will come back, right? In a hurry. At least for the next 2 to 3 years, they are not likely to come back in a hurry. So you will see some kind of real estate boom there. You will see some kind of B2C boom there. How do you tap that demand surge that you will see in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 and rural migration not happening to urban locations is probably the big question that we need to answer going forward. And I just hope, they've already said the monsoon is going to be good this year. So hopefully agriculture will again be good this year. So I think rural incomes will sustain. I hope so. And tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities which are much closer to rural will boom. So, I think for industries which are catering to those markets, it's important that they have go-to markets which can help them get there. And I'll just give you a simple example, right? If you look at Bourbon biscuits, right? Today you get Bourbon biscuits if you go to Delhi, Mumbai, but if you go to a small town in Madhya Pradesh, right, which is a population of less than 1 lakh or probably less than 10 lakhs, you may not get that Bourbon biscuits, pre-pandemic. Abhi udhar Bourbon biscuits ki zarurat padegi, right? So you have to get your distribution right over there. So I think there is demand which will shift from these metros to smaller towns and rural. How I see it.
No. Thank you so much, Sameer. I think lovely chat with you. I wish we could continue for a few more minutes and maybe a few more hours. But I think we are constrained with the time. So Shrishti, back to you. It was a pleasure talking to you, Sameer. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Hey, same here, Sameer. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shrishti, and thank you, IAMI.
So, sir, it was very interesting and insightful conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Garde, Mr. Amte, for joining us today and sharing your views. Thank you to our partners, Accenture, Automation Anywhere, Route Mobile, and Tata Teleservices. Have a good day to all of you. Stay tuned for the launch of IAMAI PwC report on intelligent automation, the future of digitalization in organizations. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.